Iran's Al-Qadr strategic decoy tactic. Tonight, Iran's plan was calculated for maximum cost, until a hidden defense network turned. We reveal what the first missile was really hiding.
Yeah, John, air raid sirens just went off across Tel Aviv, Israel's second-largest city. The Iranians have started their response. I just received word that a Navy base in Bahrain appears to have come under attack. This footage on your screen is showing smoke rising. At 4:37 in the morning local time, a single Iranian Imad missile lifts off from a moving launcher hidden inside a regular warehouse 14 miles southeast of the city of Shiraz. The hot exhaust from the missile blasts straight through the metal roof like it was tissue paper, throwing sheet metal pieces across a 200-meter area and lighting up every heat-sensing satellite that is watching Iran all at once. The missile climbs to 40,000 feet in under 90 seconds, curving southwest toward the Strait of Hormuz on a path that will bring it down somewhere inside a 3-mile circle of open water. It is not aimed at anything. That is completely the point. 70 miles to the south, the USS Dwight D. Eisenhower sits at the center of a U.S. Navy carrier strike group, moving at 8 knots through the eastern entrance to the strait. The Ike, as her crew calls her, weighs 97,000 tons and carries a group of aircraft worth about $12 billion. She has 42 aircraft on deck or stored in the hangar below, 5,200 sailors on board, and a guided missile cruiser sailing 6 nautical miles to her northeast for protection. That cruiser is the USS Gettysburg, and right now her Spy-1 radar is tracking the Imad missile as it rises through its launch phase. The Gettysburg's combat control room figures out what kind of launch it is in under 8 seconds. The target gets a tracking number. The tracking number gets a recommendation. The recommendation is to shoot it down. An SM-3 Block 2A missile leaves the Gettysburg's front launcher 22 seconds after the Imad was first spotted. The SM-3 Block 2A costs about $28 million. It is built to destroy ballistic missiles above the atmosphere, the region beyond Earth's air, where there is no drag to slow things down. It does this by steering a high-speed metal slug into the target at a combined closing speed above 15,000 miles per hour. No explosion, just one fast-moving object crashing into another. The Imad it is chasing cost the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps about $3 million to build. The math is already working in Iran's favor, and the missile hasn't even done its job yet. The SM-3 destroys the Imad 47 miles above the Persian Gulf at 4:39. A clean kill. The broken pieces scatter along a falling path that drops fragments into open water 20 miles from any shipping lane. In the Gettysburg's combat control room, the intercept is logged, confirmed, and saved. The system worked exactly as designed. $28 million to knock a $3 million distraction out of the sky. What the Gettysburg's crew did not know was that the Imad was never meant to hit anything. It was bait. And they had just taken it, using the most expensive set of missiles in the United States Navy, 900 miles to the east, at a location the Iranian military refers to only by a map coordinate number. A second launch is already underway. This one has been planned for 14 months. The weapon sitting on the missile launch vehicle is not an Imad. It is not a Shahab. It is not a Sajal. It is the Al-Qadr, a medium-range ballistic missile that Iran first showed to the public in 2024. It represents something that Pentagon intelligence officials have been arguing about in secret meetings for over a year. The Al-Qadr carries a steerable warhead, a warhead that can guide itself during the final part of its flight. Think of it this way. A regular ballistic warhead is like a rock thrown in an arc. You can figure out where it will land before it even gets there. A steerable warhead is like a rock that changes direction on the way down. The math that lets you predict where it will land stops working in the final 30 seconds of flight. And 30 seconds is a very long time in missile defense. The Al-Qadr launches at 4:38, 1 minute after the Imad, from a position. Iran designed the Al-Qadr's flight path specifically around this problem. The missile's steerable warhead does not begin its final turns until it drops below 80,000 feet. Above that height, it looks just like every other ballistic warhead on a predictable curved path. The fire control radars on the Gettysburg and the Leon can map out its path with confidence. They can send that path data to their interceptors. They can guide the kill vehicle toward a spot in the sky where the warhead and the interceptor should meet. But below 80,000 feet, the Al-Qadr's warhead begins pulling sharp sideways turns of up to 15 Gs, shifting its landing spot by hundreds of meters per second. The predicted intercept point stops being a single point. It spreads out into a cone, then a cloud. The SM-6 has to update its own guidance in real time, chasing a target that is actively trying not to be where the interceptor thinks it will be. The Iranian engineers who built this system studied every public intercept test that the United States Missile Defense Agency ever published. They watched the videos. They read the follow-up reports. They knew the SM-3 depends on predicted impact points. They knew the SM-6 has its own final stage guidance, but was mainly designed to hit cruise missiles and aircraft that pull at most 9 or 10 Gs. They built a warhead that pulls 15. The gap between what the American interceptor can handle and what the Iranian warhead can do is narrow, and the Iranians bet everything that narrow gaps favor the attacker. That bet was genuinely brilliant. It accounted for nearly everything in the American defense system. Nearly 4 minutes remain. The Gettysburg fires 2 SM-6 missiles back-to-back, for seconds apart. $8.6 million leaves the ship in under 5 seconds. Both missiles shoot southeast on solid rocket boosters before switching to their jet engines, climbing up to meet the Al-Qadr as it begins its descent. The fire control radar on the Gettysburg is now locking a focused beam on the Al-Qadr, sending path updates to both interceptors through their data links twice per second. 300 miles to the east, the Leon adds something the Iranians did not plan for. Her SPY-6 radar is newer, more powerful, and looking from a completely different angle. She cannot shoot at the Al-Qadr, but she can see it from a position that the Gettysburg simply cannot match. The two ships are now operating in a mode called Cooperative Engagement Capability, or CEC, a system that allows one ship's radar to help guide another ship's missiles. The Leon's radar data is merging with the Gettysburg's in real time, creating a three-dimensional picture of the Al-Qadr's position that is updated faster and more precisely than either ship could achieve on its own. When the warhead begins its final steering moves below 80,000 feet, the combined picture does not spread out into a wide cone. It tightens into a smaller shape, still uncertain, still moving, but smaller than the Iranians had calculated. 2 minutes remain. The Al-Qadr's warhead drops through 80,000 feet and begins pulling hard. 7 Gs left, then 12 Gs right. Then a complex weaving pattern that looks random but is actually a pre-programmed sequence designed to defeat computer prediction systems. The first SM-6 adjusts its path, chasing the updated tracking data from the shared radar picture. It is closing in at a combined speed of about 10,000 miles per hour. At that speed, a 50-meter miss is still a miss. The warhead pulls a sharp 14G turn to the south. The SM-6 follows. It detonates its fragmentation warhead 11 meters from the Al-Qadr's warhead. 11 meters. At those closing speeds, 11 meters is right on the edge. The tungsten pieces spread out in a cone. Some of them hit the warhead's outer casing. The Al-Qadr's warhead does not explode, because it was never carrying a traditional explosive. It is a solid metal slug designed to punch through a flight deck using nothing but its own speed. But the fragments damage its steering fins. The fins that allow those 15 G-turns are partly destroyed. The warhead is still falling. It is still moving at over 5,800 miles per hour, but it can no longer steer itself. 1 minute remains. The second SM-6 is 14 seconds behind the first. It receives the updated tracking data from both ships. The Al-Qadr's warhead, now tumbling slightly with its damaged fins, is a simpler target than it was 30 seconds ago. The second interceptor does not need to chase a dodging object. It just needs to hit a fast-moving but now predictable one. The SM-6's own active radar locks onto the warhead at 8 miles out and guides itself to a direct hit. The kill is made by impact alone. The warhead breaks apart at 62,000 feet above the Persian Gulf, scattering pieces that will take 4 minutes to rain down into empty water 9 miles northeast of the Eisenhower. On the Eisenhower's bridge, the air defense officer announces a splash on the incoming target. The entire engagement, from the Al-Qadr's launch to its destruction, lasted 8 minutes and 47 seconds. The cost of the Ahmad decoy was $3 million. The cost of the SM-3 that killed it was $28 million. The cost of the 2 SM-6 missiles that killed the Al-Qadr was $8.6 million. Iran spent $3 million and forced the United States to spend $36.6 million in 9 minutes. Somewhere in Tehran, someone is already doing that math on a whiteboard, and the number they are writing next to it is how many Al-Qadrs they can build for the price of the interceptors that killed this one. The answer is 12. The Eisenhower does not pause to think about the money. 17 minutes after the Al-Qadr breaks apart, 2F divided by a -18E Super Hornets launch from catapults 1 and 2. They carry a combined 8 joint direct attack munitions, GPS-guided bombs that cost $25,000 each. Their target is the warehouse southeast of Shiraz where the Ahmad launched from. Satellite images captured the launch signature. The coordinates are already loaded. The Super Hornets will cover the 70 miles to the target in under 6 minutes at full power. The warehouse, which was worth less than the truck that delivered the missile to it, is about to receive $200,000 worth of guided bombs. The United States does not do equal punishment. It does unforgettable punishment. 40 miles south of the Eisenhower, the destroyer USS Gravely has been quietly tracking an Iranian Qadr-class submarine since 3 o'clock in the morning. The Qadr weighs 120 tons when underwater, is 29 meters long, and costs about $15 million to build. It was slowly creeping toward the eastern shipping lane of the Strait, probably to watch, and possibly to fire one of its 2 torpedoes if the carrier showed damage. The Gravely's SQQ-89 sonar system has been tracking the Qadr at a range of 11 nautical miles for 97 minutes. The submarine does not know it is being tracked. After the Al-Qadr engagement, the Gravely receives permission to attack. She drops 2 lightweight torpedoes, Mark 54s, from her helicopter, an MH-60 or Sea Hawk that has been flying low overhead with its underwater listening sensor lowered into the water. Each Mark 54 costs about $600,000. The Qadr-class submarine hears the first torpedo at about 900 meters away and attempts an emergency dive. The Persian Gulf at that location is only 74 meters deep. There is not enough water beneath the Qadr to run and not enough distance to hide. The first torpedo locks onto the submarine at 400 meters and explodes within range to destroy it. The second torpedo, trailing 800 meters behind, confirms the kill on a target that is already breaking apart. The Qadr cost $15 million. Its crew of 18 sailors trained for 2 years to operate it. The 2 torpedoes that killed them cost $1.2 million combined and were dropped from a helicopter that had been watching them for an hour and a half. Iran played the cost game in every direction that morning and lost in every direction that mattered. At 5:14 in the morning local time, the 2 Super Hornets reached the warehouse coordinates southeast of Shiraz. There was almost nothing left of the roof. The Ahmad's launch had already blown most of it into the surrounding fields. The missile-launched vehicle was still inside, blackened and empty, but recognizable enough to confirm the sight. The lead pilot drops 4 dams in a box pattern. The wingman follows with 4 more. 8 500-pound bombs land within a 40-meter circle in under 3 seconds. The warehouse, the launcher, 2 support vehicles, and a communications trailer cease to exist. The craters will be visible on commercial satellite images by noon. Iran's state media will call it an unprovoked attack on civilian buildings. The satellite photos will show the burn mark from a ballistic missile launch pointing straight out of the building. By 5:30, the Eisenhower has gone back to normal flight operations. The deck crew is launching the patrol mission that was interrupted 53 minutes earlier. The 2 Super Hornets that were pushed back from the catapults are now in the air, heading south over the Strait as if nothing happened. The Gettysburg is reloading her launch cells from the ammunition ship trailing 30 nautical miles to the southeast. Each SM-6 reload takes about 40 minutes using the ship's crane and a connected supply rig. The Gettysburg will have her full supply of missiles back within 6 hours. Iran will need 14 months to build another Al-Qadr. The entire engagement lasted 9 minutes from the first launch to the last intercept. Iran fired 2 missiles, used 1 submarine, and carried out a plan that was genuinely clever. It cost them a $3 million Ahmad missile, a missile that represents their best publicly known steerable warhead technology, a $15 million submarine, 18 trained sailors, a warehouse, a mobile launcher, and whatever was left of the idea that comparing costs would eventually break the American carrier model. The United States spent $37.8 million in interceptors, $200,000 in guided bombs, and $1.2 million in torpedoes. The total American cost was just under $39.2 million to defend a carrier strike group worth more than $30 billion. The planners in Tehran spent 14 months designing an attack built around the idea that America could not afford to keep defending itself at those spending rates. The planners in Washington spent 9 minutes showing that they could afford to do it all morning. Iran's plan was smart. The decoy and strike sequence was textbook. The steerable warhead was a real technological achievement. The submarine positioning showed real operational patience. Every piece of the plan worked exactly as designed right up until it ran into a defense network that could take information from 2 radars on 2 ships 300 miles apart, combine it into a single firing solution, and use it fast enough to hit a warhead pulling 14 Gs at 8 times the speed of sound. Iran built a weapon that could cut through any single shield. The Americans were not holding a single shield. The Eisenhower's battle group did not barely avoid a disaster that morning. It spotted one, identified the threat, assigned the resources, destroyed the weapons, sank the submarine, blew up the launch site, and went back to normal operations before most of the crew finished breakfast. Those 9 minutes cost Iran a generation of missile development and confirmed that the price of attacking a carrier strike group is not measured in dollars. It is measured in what you no longer have when the morning is over. If you enjoyed this video, check out our other video on how the US Navy's Aegis system actually tracks and destroys ballistic missiles in real time. Bye for now.